On Friday, September 5th, 2025, Filipino forces successfully brought food, fuel, and fresh troops to the BRP Sierra Madre, the rusty World War II-era ship that serves as the Philippines' outpost at 2nd Thomas Shoal, also known as Ayungin Shoal. The resupply mission took place despite growing Chinese activity in the area, including water cannon drills and the deployment of more China Coast Guard and suspected militia ships. 2 Philippine security officials confirmed to the Associated Press that the mission was completed without any untoward incident. They also revealed that the delivery had been postponed for several weeks to make sure it could be carried out safely. The operation used a Philippine supply boat escorted by 2 Coast Guard vessels, BRP Blockade and BRP Malapascua. Along the way, they were closely followed by 2 China Coast Guard ships with hull numbers 5304 and 23514. According to Navy spokesperson Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, China had maintained a steady force of 24 vessels near the shoal for several days before the mission.
So we have noticed that for every, I mentioned earlier, there is a change in their actions. There are no coercive and aggressive actions being conducted by the Coast Guard, Chinese Coast Guard, and the PLA Navy against our ships from the Coast Guard, BFAR, Navy, and our aircraft.
This included 4 Coast Guard ships and about 20 maritime militia vessels, part of Beijing's so-called gray zone tactics, where civilian and state forces are blurred to put pressure on rivals. Despite this heavy presence, the mission ended peacefully, something officials partly credit to a provisional non-aggression agreement that Manila and Beijing quietly signed in July 2024. This calm was a big contrast to what happened on June 17, 2024, when Chinese Coast Guard personnel allegedly boarded Philippine boats, seized firearms, and injured a Filipino sailor who lost his thumb. At the time, Armed Forces Chief Admiral Romeo Bronner Jr. slammed China's actions as hijacking and piracy. Since then, the Philippines has managed at least 9 resupply runs without confrontation, showing that the 2024 deal has reduced, though not eliminated, the risk of violence. Still, tensions remain. Just last month, China raised its presence around Ayungin Shoal by sending more Coast Guard and militia ships, some with heavy machine guns, supported by a helicopter and even a drone. In one case, a Chinese ship fired its powerful water cannon in what Manila saw as intimidation. Another Chinese vessel came as close as 50 meters to the Sierra Madre before being blocked by Filipino Marines. Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro strongly condemned these moves, calling them gross violations of international law. He reminded that Ayungin Shoal lies within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and the 2016 Hague Tribunal ruling. China has no legal right or authority to conduct law enforcement operations in our territorial waters and in our exclusive economic zone, Teodoro said. The September 5th mission also happened alongside international support. On the same day, 2 U.S. Navy destroyers were seen on routine patrol in the South China Sea. While it wasn't clear if their presence was directly coordinated with the Philippine mission, their patrol highlighted Washington's commitment under the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, which obligates the U.S. to defend Philippine forces if attacked. The BRP Sierra Madre has been central to this dispute since 1999, when the Philippines intentionally grounded the ship at 2nd Thomas Shoal to establish a permanent outpost. Since then, Chinese vessels have tried to block resupply missions in hopes of forcing Manila to abandon it. Although the 2024 non-aggression deal has helped reduce direct clashes, the wider dispute, also involving Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, and China, is far from resolved. For the Philippines, however, every successful resupply is both a practical win for its troops and a symbolic statement of sovereignty. As Rear Admiral Trinidad put it plainly, we need not seek permission from any foreign power. These missions will continue. Philippine officials hailed the September 5th, 2025 resupply mission to the BRP Sierra Madre as a success, confirming that the operation was completed without any untoward incident. According to 2 security officials, the delivery of supplies and rotation of personnel at 2nd Thomas Shoal had been deliberately postponed for a few weeks to ensure its security and success, reflecting Manila's caution amid heightened Chinese activity in the area. Even before the mission, the Philippines had made clear its determination to continue asserting sovereignty. Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, spokesperson for the armed forces, emphasized that Manila does not recognize Beijing's authority in its waters. We need not seek permission from any foreign power, much more from one that has encroached into our exclusive economic zone. These missions will continue.
We are very strong in giving out the truth. When you speak the truth, we don't need any coordination or any alignment of messages. We just have to say it how it is as it is. And the truth will stand up for itself. That is the thrust of the armed forces today.
He further stressed the responsibility of military leaders to safeguard their frontline troops, declaring, "We cannot neglect our soldiers. It is the moral obligation of the leadership of the armed forces to provide, especially food, to our men in the front lines." China, meanwhile, has consistently rejected the Philippine resupply missions as illegitimate. In an August 2025 statement, Beijing's Ministry of National Defense accused Manila of carrying out infringing provocations and warned that the Philippines would face all consequences if such missions continued. Chinese officials insisted that their Coast Guard actions have been professional and restrained, even as Philippine forces documented repeated instances of dangerous maneuvers and harassment. International partners have underscored their support for Manila in the face of these tensions. The U.S. Department of Defense has repeatedly reaffirmed that the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty applies in the South China Sea, stressing that an armed attack on Philippine armed forces, aircraft, or public vessels in the SCS would invoke U.S. mutual defense commitments. That commitment was visibly underscored on the day of the resupply, when 2 U.S. Navy destroyers conducted routine patrols in the region, a presence widely seen as a signal to Beijing. Other allies have also voiced alarm over Chinese actions. Following the violent June 17, 2024 clash, in which a Filipino sailor was injured, Australia issued a strong statement of solidarity. Canberra expressed grave concern at what it called the dangerous and illegal actions by China's vessels, describing the confrontation as an escalation in a pattern of deeply concerning and destabilizing behavior.
The rules-based order is being placed under here in the Indo-Pacific. Now, we work really closely with the Philippines in terms of asserting the rules-based order in the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea. And that's really important for us to jointly do. We understand that in that work, there will be an interaction between defence forces.
On September 5th, 2025, the Philippines successfully pulled off another resupply mission to the grounded BRP Sierra Madre at 2nd Thomas Shoal, achieving a rare moment of calm in the often tense South China Sea. A Philippine supply boat, escorted by the Coast Guard vessels BRP Blockade and BRP Malapascua, managed to deliver food, fuel, and fresh troops despite being closely shadowed by 2 Chinese Coast Guard ships, numbered 5304 and 23514. Beijing had warned of consequences if Manila pressed ahead, but Philippine officials later confirmed that the mission was carried out without any untoward incident. Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, spokesperson for the Armed Forces of the Philippines, reported that China's presence in the area was steady in the days leading up to the operation, with 24 ships monitored near the shoal. These included 4 China Coast Guard vessels and about 20 maritime militia boats. Part of Beijing's gray zone tactics meant to blur the line between civilian and military activity. Officials believe the relative calm was partly due to a provisional non-aggression agreement quietly signed between Manila and Beijing in July 2024, which has helped keep confrontations in check. This peaceful mission stood in sharp contrast to the violent clash of June 17, 2024, when Chinese Coast Guard personnel allegedly seized firearms from Filipino troops and injured a sailor, who lost a thumb during the incident. At the time, Armed Forces Chief Admiral Romeo Bronner Jr. condemned the act as hijacking and piracy. Against that backdrop, the latest mission has been seen as a welcome sign.
The operation also unfolded with quiet international support.
On the same day, 2 U.S. Navy destroyers were spotted on routine patrol in the South China Sea. While there was no direct involvement, their presence sent a strong signal of Washington's commitment under the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, reminding Beijing that the Philippines is not standing alone. Philippine officials, however, stressed that the smooth resupply should not be mistaken for a softening of Manila's position. Security sources revealed that the mission had been delayed for weeks to ensure it could be done safely, but insisted it would have gone ahead regardless of Chinese objections. Rear Admiral Trinidad was blunt. "We need not seek permission from any foreign power, much more from one that has encroached into our exclusive economic zone. These missions will continue," Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro echoed this stance, denouncing China's growing presence near Ayungin Shoal as a matter not only of concern, but of condemnation. He emphasized that Beijing's claims had no basis in law, adding firmly, "China has no legal right or authority to conduct law enforcement operations in our territorial waters and in our exclusive economic zone." The successful resupply mission, carried out without confrontation, points to a fragile form of de-escalation between Manila and Beijing. This outcome is widely seen as the result of the Provisional Non-Aggression Agreement forged in July 2024, which has helped reduce the frequency of violent encounters. Yet the calm remains tenuous. China has not eased its pressure, continuing to flex its maritime power with water cannon drills and stern warnings of all consequences should the Philippines persist with what Beijing calls infringing provocations. Despite the brief lull, the potential for miscalculation remains dangerously high. The August 2025 incident at Scarborough Shoal underscored this reality. A Chinese Coast Guard ship collided with a People's Liberation Army Navy warship while both attempted to intercept a Philippine patrol vessel. The collision reportedly inflicted substantial damage on the Chinese Coast Guard vessel, highlighting how Beijing's overlapping deployments of civilian, paramilitary, and naval forces increase the likelihood of accidents spiraling out of control. Beyond security, the South China Sea tensions carry significant economic consequences. The contested waters are a vital artery for global commerce, with an estimated 24% of maritime trade passing through the region. Persistent clashes inject uncertainty into shipping routes, pushing insurers to raise premiums and prompting corporations to diversify supply chains away from the region. While diversification improves resilience, it also introduces inefficiencies and competitiveness costs. A reminder that the strategic contest is already reshaping the global economy. Looking ahead, the dispute is accelerating geopolitical realignments. The Philippines is emerging as a pivotal U.S. ally in the Indo-Pacific, deepening its military ties not only with Washington, but also with regional partners. A striking example came in late August 2025, when Manila hosted ALAN 2025, the largest ever joint exercise with Australia. The drills, conducted east of Scarborough Shoal and joined by Canadian naval vessels, underscored Manila's expanding network of security partners. Interestingly, Chinese ships in the vicinity chose not to interfere, a silence that analysts interpret as calculated restraint. At its core, the standoff is a test of international law versus raw power projection. While the 2016 Permanent Court of Arbitration ruling invalidated China's sweeping claims, Beijing has continued to employ salami slicing and gray zone tactics designed to assert control incrementally without triggering open conflict. Analysts describe this as a form of political warfare, a slow but deliberate campaign to subdue the enemy without fighting, eroding legal norms through steady, normalized coercion. The most serious risk lies in escalation. Even with the Provisional Non-Aggression Agreement offering a temporary buffer, the chance of a small incident spiraling into a major crisis remains. A collision, water cannon attack, or boarding gone wrong could inadvertently trigger Washington's treaty obligations. The United States has repeatedly reaffirmed that an armed attack on Philippine armed forces, aircraft, or public vessels in the South China Sea would invoke its mutual defense treaty commitments. For Manila, that promise is both a deterrent and a potential tripwire, a reminder that the fragile calm of today could give way to confrontation tomorrow. The September 5th resupply mission may have ended without confrontation, but it underscored the fragile balance at sea. What happens at 2nd Thomas Shoal is more than just a local dispute. It is a litmus test of sovereignty, deterrence, and the credibility of international law in one of the world's most contested regions. As China pushes its claims and the Philippines rallies support from allies, the Shoal remains a flashpoint where regional stability, freedom of navigation, and the integrity of the rules-based order converge. If you liked the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for deep analysis of contemporary issues.